Good evening. I want to welcome you all to another session where we discuss the state of the district. Tonight, I get to welcome District Governor Leslie Chasse. He's going to be talking about District 19N. Leslie, take it away.
Yes, sir. Um, Boy, it sure has been quite a year. Uh, I knew coming into this that it was going to be an interesting trip, and I'm proud to say one of my main ambitions when I first signed up to do this, way back in June of last year, I had told people that my main ambition was to make it out the other side, and here we are. So at least we got that much accomplished. And it wasn't all bad. There were some good notes in the year past. Um, we had some issue coming in towards the end there with Vice District Governor Bob Johnson having to drop out due to health reasons, but it worked out well. We have a replacement for Bob. Her name is past District Governor Donna Murr from Lacey Lamplighters, I believe.
Lacey,
Lacey Lamplighters or Lacey Don, one of the two. I can't remember. Anyway, so we have a vice district governor. She's a little bit late, because if you're a vice district governor, you know it's coming and you can prepare for it and get all the things done that you need to do. And she didn't have that advantage. But on the other hand, she's been a district governor before, so it's not all brand new to her. She's still trying to get caught up. Things like lapel pins, or district governor pins, basic little things like that and she's still finishing working on her cabinet and working out details, but she will be going to the convention in Orlando. That was one of the things that she missed out on before because she was district governor right during the pandemic and she didn't get to do much of anything in person. So no training in Chicago, no convention in Orlando, none of that. So, but she does get some advantage of bringing that back. And plus, she's a good person. She's more of an administrator than I am. I tend to inspire people, but I'm a terrible administrator. Hopefully, Donna is better at administrating than I am. So I'm sure she will be. I think the District 19 is a fairly happy place. All the clubs that I visited don't seem to be reporting any negatives of any kind. Um, Growth tends to be a bit of an issue, but I don't think that we're losing as rapidly as we used to. I don't think we're going backwards quite as fast. And though we're still losing, nonetheless a positive trend. And we can build on that. Maybe in a couple of years, we can actually grow. That's always the hope. Some clubs are growing. Uh, I can, I'm proud to state, I'm very proud of my own club, of course. Um, we have added 19 new members this year. So that's an accomplishment in itself. So I don't want to talk about my club too much because that's not what I'm here for. Um, like I said, some clubs are growing quite well. Some clubs are not. We've lost a few, but those clubs were not anything that anybody should be surprised with. I'm not sure what's going on with Morton. The word that I had was that they basically dropped everything, liquidated everything, and walked away from it. But somebody tells me that they're still paying their dues. So I don't know if they're just trying to liquidate their money until they don't have any left. And I don't know because I can't reach them. There's nobody answers the phone and nobody responds to email. So I don't know. LCIs have the same issue. The issue with Morton, it goes back several years. I'm not the first district governor to deal with that. We have had an issue with um, a couple of clubs that were fairly delinquent on their LCI dues. And I have to assume if they're delinquent on the LCI dues, they're also delinquent on the district dues. But for the most part, that's been taken care of, no problem. And like I said, some clubs are doing very well. Not Morton, Mineral Lake out there under the shadow of Mount Rainier, deep in the woods up there, they're putting in a food bank. And they got something like $71,000 grant from LCI to help finish putting that in. And it's a heck of a success story. I'm extremely proud of those people for what they're doing up there in the hills of Mount Rainier. And there are other clubs, of course. way back when I started, before I started, I put together a small committee of people. Al was one of them that I wished to discuss with them um, any ideas that they might have about things that have not been working. Maybe we could change, maybe different ideas for new ideas that shake things up a little bit and do it a little differently and see what we can come up with. And in the end, I came up with a couple of things that I actually did put into play. Um, one of those was I situated my cabinet into teams, and that worked very well. It was a new process, so there's still some bugs to be worked out. But the whole idea of the service team and the membership team and the leadership team and the zone chair team was to encourage communication so that nobody feels like they're left out and forgotten. Because if you have a meeting every month, we can talk about this, and you're invited. And come on in there. In the meetings, maybe you'll talk about your issues, your problems, your successes, and the group think can work through these problems. And that seemed to work pretty well. We didn't the team leaders for membership and the zones were both new, and so they were unfamiliar and didn't have their footing set out very well set underneath them. But the GLT and the GST, Brian Scott and Jan Weatherly, they both were they knew what they were doing. And one of their issues with the program, the team approach, was that they didn't get enough communication. They would like to have had communication more with the zones and the zone chairs so they could understand more what's going on within the clubs within their zones, which was one of the reasons for having the team approach. Maybe next year we can do it again. That's up to Donna, and we'll see how that goes. If it will expand and work better. Another thing that I wanted to do was share the visitations with the vices, and this has worked out very well. They loved it. Both Bob and Cindy. Well, I haven't heard much from Bob on it, but he was very active doing the visitations before he got sick. I have spoken with Cindy, and she said she loved it. She liked going out and visiting with the clubs, and will like to continue doing that again this year and the year after. One of my hopes is that Cindy, being at that time, she was the second vice district governor, so that by the time Cindy is finished being district governor, she will have visited every club in the district. So you don't have to get it all done in 1 year. That's 75 clubs, in a year. It can be done, but you really have to dedicate yourself to it pretty much exclusively. You're not going to get much housework done. You're not going to do many things with your family because you're dedicated to running on doing the visitations. Another thing that I had wanted to institute way back early with my club add on the team was I wanted to add a DEI chair, diversity, not equality. Yeah, equality and inclusion, diversity, equality, inclusion. But right away, a few people, I got pushback that was what they call a hot button subject. And the only reason it's a hot button subject is because some people decided to make it into a hot button subject. Because the simple fact is, DEI, Lions are wrapped around that 100%. We are DEI. But fortunately, LCI has a different phrase for it, a different approach for the same type of thing. They call it new voices. And I've been interjecting new voices, this approach, in my stump speeches, in my conversations. Things like I talk about unintended acts of exclusion. And I bring that out, I put that out there for everybody to hear, say, write it down, unintended acts of exclusion. And I don't explain it. I want them to go home and Google it, because if I tell them, it may go in one ear and out the other. But if they actually take the time to Google it and find out, then it sticks. And I've had a number of people email me and say, this was great. The whole process of learning and understanding unintended acts of exclusion. And with me, I see this new voices, it meshes right in with this project 1.5 that we're doing, trying to increase membership to 1.5 million. Because if we look in most of our clubs are predominantly white. And I'd found out that not all of our clubs are mixed sex. There's a lot of clubs out there that are all men. There's a few that are all women, but I'd like to see, homogenous clubs. I'd like to see our clubs represent our communities. And if our clubs represented our communities more, the opportunity for membership growth actually it could solve our backing up problem. If we had all the people in the community well represented, that would add another 25, 30% to our membership without really stretching it. So that's one thing. Another thing I've been working on is that a way of thinking about it. But when I talk to these clubs, the first thing I tell them is I'm not telling anybody what to do or how to do it. All I'm doing is dropping an idea, and I want you to think about it. That way you come up with your own conclusions and do what you want to do. Because I understand with a lot of people that if I'm talking about new voices or DEI and I start dropping down edicts, they're just going to close off, back up, and nothing's going to come from it. So I suggest, think about it. And so we start this process, and maybe in a couple of years it'll sink in, and we'll make some changes. I mentioned that it wasn't until 1987 that LCI finally relented and allowed women to join Lions clubs. And when you look around at all the Lions clubs now, where would they be without women in their clubs? Most of them wouldn't exist anymore, or they'd be very, very small. But in most clubs, the women Lions are a large part of the backbone of what they do. So it's important, and that's a good example with women. They're new voices. Everybody that you can sign up into your club is a new voice, and we need new voices for new ideas and new perspectives. Otherwise, we keep doing the same things, and we'll keep going backwards and losing our members. I see new voices as something being quite critical for the growth and life of the Lions. I think the future of District 19N is real bright. I would like to see more growth, but I think things are beginning to at least slow down, like I said, or possibly even turn around into next year, year after that, we can see some change. It takes time. When I started with my club 10 years ago, 2 years after I joined up, they made me club president, and I made some changes. We needed to quit. For the most part, we were doing nothing but fundraising, and that gets really old and tiresome. We wanted to do service projects. And in doing the service projects, we're out there where the public can see us doing these service projects. And now, 8 years later, we've added 19 new members, and almost all those members came to us and asked to join our club because they've seen us out in the community doing these projects, and they like what we're doing, and they want to join us. Now, these are solid members. They wanted to join. They weren't recruited. So there's very good likelihood that they'll be around for a while. And that's a good thing. And that's something I'll talk about at Al's next meeting on Sunday, if I can remember that it's Sunday. Now I want to close with the convention. The the District 19 convention, everybody loved it. It was well received. Past District Governor Mark Mansell and Marketing Manager Stephanie Odell both did a magnificent job of putting this together. And it was especially a significant coup to get Brian Sheehan to come in as our international guest. Man, that guy has some energy to him. And we also learned that it's not always about Brian. So yeah, great experiences. I'm grateful that Mr. Mansell managed to talk me into doing it. See, so it was 10 years ago, I joined Lions. And then 2 years after that, they said, we want you to be club president because they said, you got the stuff. I said, what stuff? And then a couple of years later, Sue Fox asked me if I would take over and be a zone chair. And I said, why? She said, you've got the stuff. And I said, what stuff? And then a couple of years later, Mark Mansell said, you should be a district governor because you've got the stuff. I still don't know what the stuff is. And that's my stump.
I could continue on that thread and make some jokes, but I'm going to restrain myself here. the I expect, because you've set in on a couple of these, that you know what to expect from me. First question is, what put the biggest smile on your face this last year?
Actually, I have a couple.
Okay.
Of course, the convention was very special. That was 3, 4 days of ear to ear grin.
Yeah.
But one of the things I really noticed and really enjoyed about this past year was the power and influence that the small clubs have in their communities. In fact, it was that what I saw it helped me modify my stump speech just a little bit. And I stated to them, your club has been in existence. Your club started 1945. So you've been a club for, what is that, 70 years or something like that. I'm off the top of my head. I can't do the math that fast. But anyway, you've been a club for this long. And all those years, all that service that you've done in your community. Now think what it'd be like if there was no Lions Club. None of that service would have been done. Think about your club in the years in the future. You want your club to survive and be there for another 40 years so that you continue to have that impact on your community. And it's very important because we are literally changing the world one service project at a time.
Yeah, here. Okay, the other end of the question is, what challenge caused the biggest frustration for you?
For me, personally, it was a cost issue. I wish that I had more leeway in my personal bank account because being a district governor, most of the district governors in the past, and I can't say for all because I don't know, but a large number of the ones that I'm aware of, they wind up spending a fair amount of change out of their own pocket to do the job. And I just didn't have that change. But unfortunately, the people in the district have become accustomed to that higher level. So when I said I couldn't do that, they're disappointed. And well, it comes back on me, but that's the way it is. As it is, I went like $7,000 in debt covering things that I couldn't afford.
Wow. Wow. Okay. That's yeah, that would be a little frustrating. I understand that. Yeah, cool. Chuck, what questions have you got for Leslie?
I don't know if a question, more of a comment that I know what you're talking about the out of pocket, because it's no matter what you do, mileage and what you get as for hotel never really covers everything. But I don't know about your district, but our district was most all the clubs were very generous in helping with gas money and different things. And so in that case, I probably, I don't know if I went under a little bit, it's not a lot. Uh, so that was a positive thing. And I just, I understand what you're saying, Leslie, but I I just wondered, one of the things I was thinking about is what challenges you might have had with LCI and the portal that could have made you doing your district job a little bit smoother.
Well, the thing that really made it the biggest difference of all is that I had a district administrator who had full access to the portal, and she knew her way around.
Right.
She could navigate it just fine. So that anytime somebody was trying to figure out how to do something, she could help them. Or we had a club that they couldn't get their officers entered. She could take care of that. There were several clubs that tried and then gave up. So they're just not in there. But it's much better if we could have those on the website, of course. So she'd just go in and enter those officers or whatever was necessary. So yeah, I think the biggest help was the club administrators. The second most important thing was I had myself half a dozen district governor advisors, people I could call on, I can rely on to help me when I get into a situation I just don't know the answer. How to
Yeah, I
get
had all those same things. I had a district administrator and all, just a total handful of past district governors that I could fall back on. But, there were just things with the portal that happened with our district that without a district administrator, we would have been in big trouble. And it just took time away from the other things I could be doing to make sure those things got done. So I get,
well, part of it, what I did was I didn't try to take off too much with the portal. I had a specific task that I was trying to do. For instance, one of the first things I learned how to do with the portal was to look up a club and get the club's history and the club's officers, so that I had that information before I went for a visitation.
right.
Then I could print out a sheet of questions or things, comments, things to talk about, whatnot. So that was kind of important. There wasn't much else that was an issue. If I had a problem, like I said, I'd send Lisa an email, say, hey, I can't get this. What's up?
Right.
Would I do it again?
I wasn't that fortunate.
Nah. Would I do it again? There was a few weeks there when I thought I might be.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wasn't looking forward to that. Like I said, I'd have done it, but I'd rather not.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you for your time tonight. And I especially want to thank Governor Leslie for for doing this work all year long. Yes, you had preparation and you knew what was coming and so forth and so on. But in order for it to be a successful year, means that you had to do a lot of things right, and I think you did a lot of things right. So
I had a lot of people that were making sure I did it right.
Yeah. Yep. They're here. Okay. All right. Gentlemen, any other questions or comments? No? Okay. Well, in that case, I'm going to draw this to a close. Again, I want to thank you for your time and attention tonight, and I look forward to seeing you guys somewhere, somehow. See you later.
Okay, then.
Okay.